Amanda Clark sat in her favorite chair at the long curved table that had been her second home for 15 years. The bright studio lights made everything look perfect, just like it did every morning at 9 o'clock when Morning Perspectives went live across America. She loved this feeling. The power of knowing that millions of people were listening to every word she said. Today felt different, though. Amanda had been reading the news all weekend about the latest political fights in Washington. She was tired of politicians who talked about God and prayer all the time. It made her angry. She thought these people were using religion to trick voters. Her co-host Lisa Brown was shuffling through her notes, getting ready for the show to start. Lisa was always nervous before they went live. She had been doing television for only 3 years. Karen White, their third co-host, was checking her makeup in a small mirror. Karen was the quiet one who usually agreed with whatever Amanda said. The red light on the main camera turned on. They were live. "Good morning, America. I'm Amanda Clark and welcome to Morning Perspectives," she said with her famous bright smile. "We're here with Lisa Brown and Karen White to talk about the news that matters to you." Lisa jumped in with the first story about new jobs numbers. Then Karen talked about a movie star's wedding. These were the safe topics that made their producer, Tony Martinez, happy. But Amanda was thinking about something else. "You know what I'm tired of hearing about?" Amanda said suddenly, interrupting Karen's story about the celebrity wedding. "I'm tired of politicians who think they can solve everything with prayer." Lisa looked surprised. They hadn't planned to talk about religion today. Karen stopped talking and stared at Amanda. "I mean, come on," Amanda continued, getting more excited. "We have real problems in this country. People can't afford their medicine. Kids are going hungry. And what do our leaders do? They pray about it. They ask God to fix everything while they sit around doing nothing." The studio audience was quiet. Some people looked uncomfortable. Others nodded their heads, agreeing with Amanda. "Amanda," Lisa said carefully, "I think many people find comfort in their faith during hard times." "Comfort?" Amanda laughed. "Lisa, that's exactly the problem. People use religion as a blanket to hide under instead of facing reality. They think some invisible man in the sky is going to come down and fix their problems." Karen shifted in her chair. She grew up going to church every Sunday with her grandmother. Amanda's words made her stomach feel tight. "These religious conservatives act like they have all the answers," Amanda went on. "They wave their Bibles around and tell everyone else how to live, but look at the world. If God is so great, why is everything such a mess?" The camera operator behind the main camera made a face. His name was Pete Johnson, and he went to church every Wednesday and Sunday. He had worked with Amanda for 8 years, but he had never heard her talk like this before. "I just think we need to be respectful of different beliefs," Lisa tried again. Her voice was getting higher the way it did when she was nervous. "Respectful?" Amanda turned to face Lisa directly. "Why should I respect something that makes people stupid? These people think Noah really put 2 of every animal on a boat. They think Moses really split the ocean in half. They think a virgin had a baby who came back from the dead." Several people in the studio audience stood up and walked out. Amanda saw them leaving, but she didn't care. She was just getting started. "And don't even get me started on prayer," she said, looking straight into the main camera. "People get on their knees and talk to the ceiling like someone is actually listening. Oh, please God, help me win the lottery. Oh, please God, make my team win the game." It's like watching adults believe in Santa Claus. Tony Martinez was standing behind the cameras, waving his hands at Amanda to stop. His face was red, and he was shaking his head. But Amanda pretended not to see him. "You want to know what I think?" Amanda asked the camera. "I think religion is for weak people who can't handle life on their own. They need to believe in fairy tales to feel better about themselves." Karen finally found her voice. "Amanda, I go to church. Are you saying I'm weak?" Amanda looked at Karen with fake sympathy. "Karen, honey, I'm not attacking you personally. I'm just saying that smart people don't need imaginary friends to get through life." The phone lines at the television station were already ringing. Viewers were calling to complain. Some were calling to cheer Amanda on. Social media was exploding with clips of what she had just said. Look, Amanda continued, I know this makes some people uncomfortable, but someone needs to tell the truth. These politicians who talk about God all the time are just trying to get votes from people who don't think for themselves. She pointed at the camera again. And these young politicians, like that Karoline Leavitt woman who works at the White House. She stands up there talking about faith and values like she's some kind of prophet. She's just a kid who doesn't understand how the real world works. Lisa and Karen both looked shocked. Attacking specific people by name was going too far, even for Amanda. The truth is, Amanda said, her voice getting louder, if there really was a God watching over us, do you think he would let children get sick? Do you think he would let good people lose their jobs? Do you think he would let wars happen? She slammed her hand on the table. Either God doesn't exist, or he doesn't care about us. Either way, why waste time praying to him? The studio was completely quiet now. Even the camera crews had stopped moving. Tony Martinez looked like he might have a heart attack. We'll be right back after these messages, Lisa said quickly, trying to end the segment. But Amanda wasn't done. Before we go to break, let me just say this. America needs to grow up. We need to stop believing in fairy tales and start believing in ourselves. We don't need God. We never did. The red light on the camera finally went off. They were at commercial break. Tony Martinez ran over to the table. Amanda, what are you doing? The phones are going crazy. The network executives are going to kill me. Amanda just smiled. Tony, relax. This is what good television looks like. People are talking about us. That's what we want. But she had no idea what was coming next. In living rooms across America, people were already recording her comments and posting them online. By the time the show ended, millions of people had seen what she said. And one of those people was Karoline Leavitt, who was about to change Amanda's life forever. Karoline Leavitt was eating breakfast in her small apartment near the White House when her phone started buzzing. Text after text came in from friends and family. Her mother sent her a video clip with the message, "You need to see this right now, Karoline." Clicked on the video and watched Amanda Clark's angry speech about God and religion. Her heart sank as she heard her own name mentioned. Amanda had called her, just a kid who doesn't understand how the real world works. By the time Karoline finished watching, the video had been shared thousands of times on social media. People were using words like shocking and disgusting to describe what Amanda had said. Others were defending Amanda, saying she was brave for speaking the truth. Karoline put down her coffee cup and closed her eyes. She said a quiet prayer, asking for wisdom about how to respond. This wasn't the first time someone had attacked her faith in public, but it felt different when millions of people were watching. Her phone rang. It was her boss, Chief of Staff Mark Thompson. "Karoline, I know you've seen the video. The president wants to know how you want to handle this." "I'll address it at today's press briefing," Karoline said calmly. "I won't attack her personally, but I think the American people deserve to hear about the importance of religious freedom." "Are you sure you want to get into this fight?" Mark asked. "She's a television host. She knows how to make headlines." Karoline smiled. "Mark, I'm not looking for a fight. I'm just going to tell the truth." 2 hours later, Karoline walked into the White House press briefing room. She could tell that the reporters were excited. They knew she was going to be asked about Amanda's comments. Sarah Martinez from CNN raised her hand first. "Karoline, have you seen the comments that Amanda Clark made this morning about religion and faith? She specifically mentioned you by name. What's your response?" Karoline had been thinking about this moment all morning. She looked directly into the cameras that were broadcasting live across the country. "Sarah, I did see those comments," Karoline began. "First, let me say that in America, everyone has the right to express their opinions, even when those opinions are hurtful to others." She paused for a moment, then continued. "But I want to talk about what faith really means to millions of Americans. My faith isn't about being weak or needing imaginary friends, as Ms. Clark suggested. My faith is what gave me strength when my single mother worked 3 jobs to keep food on our table." The room was completely quiet. Even the reporters who usually interrupted were listening carefully. "My faith taught me to work hard in school when other kids made fun of my old clothes and my packed lunch. My faith gave me hope when people said a girl from my neighborhood would never amount to anything. Karoline's voice got stronger. Faith-based organizations feed hungry families in every city in America. They help people beat drug addiction. They build homes for families who lost everything in storms and fires. They visit lonely old people in nursing homes. They adopt children who need families. Reporter Tom Wilson from Fox News raised his hand. What about Ms. Clark's point that religious people don't think for themselves? Karoline almost smiled. Tom, some of the smartest people in history have been people of faith. The scientists who discovered gravity and electricity, the doctors who found cures for deadly diseases, the leaders who fought to end slavery. Many of them were guided by their faith to make the world better. She looked back at the main camera. Ms. Clark seems to think that faith and intelligence can't exist together. But I graduated at the top of my class in college. I studied law. I work in the White House because I earned this job through hard work and dedication. My faith didn't make me weak, it made me strong. Another reporter, Jenny Adams from NBC, spoke up. Some people are saying that Ms. Clark was right to question why bad things happen if God exists. How do you respond to that? Karoline thought about her grandmother, who had died of cancer 2 years ago. Her grandmother never stopped believing in God, even when she was in pain. Jenny, people of faith don't claim to have all the answers, Karoline said. We don't believe that faith makes life easy or that prayers always get answered the way we want. But we believe that we're not alone in this world. We believe that love is stronger than hate, and that hope is stronger than fear. She took a breath. When bad things happen, people of faith don't just pray and do nothing. They roll up their sleeves and help. They volunteer at hospitals. They donate money to help disaster victims. They mentor kids who need guidance. They do the hard work of making the world better. In television stations across the country, news directors were already planning their evening stories. This wasn't just about politics anymore. This was about something deeper. Back in New York, Amanda Clark was watching the press briefing in her dressing room. She had planned to ignore whatever Karoline said, but she found herself listening to every word. Part of her was impressed by how well the young woman spoke, but a bigger part of her was angry. She thinks she's so perfect, Amanda said to her assistant, Nicole Davis. Little Miss Perfect with her pretty speeches about faith and hope. Nicole, who had worked for Amanda for 5 years, stayed quiet. She had grown up in a religious family, and Karoline's words reminded her of her father's sermons. Amanda grabbed her phone and called her producer. Tony, I want to respond to this tonight. Can we do a special segment? Amanda, maybe we should wait, Tony said. Let this cool down for a few days. No way, Amanda shot back. This little girl thinks she can lecture me about faith? I'm going to show America who she really is. That evening, Amanda did exactly what she promised. She spent 10 minutes of her show attacking Karoline personally. She called her naive and privileged. She said Karoline didn't understand real problems because she worked in politics. This is what's wrong with young people today, Amanda said to her television audience. They think a few pretty words can solve everything. They live in a bubble where everyone agrees with them. She looked straight into the camera. Karoline Leavitt, if you're watching, I have a challenge for you. Come on my show. Let's have a real conversation about faith and reality. Let's see how your pretty speeches hold up when someone challenges them. Within an hour, the video of Amanda's challenge was everywhere online. News websites were calling it the battle between faith and reason. Social media was buzzing with people taking sides. At her apartment, Karoline was reading the comments on her phone. Some people were encouraging her to accept Amanda's challenge. Others were warning her to stay away. Her mother called. Honey, you don't have to do this. This woman is just trying to get attention. Mom, Karoline said, maybe that's exactly why I should do it. Maybe God is giving me a chance to show people what faith really looks like. The next morning, Karoline called. Amanda's producer. Tell Ms. Clark that I accept her challenge, she said. But I want it to be a real debate, not just her show. Let's do it somewhere neutral, where we can both present our views fairly. Within hours, the biggest television networks in America were fighting to host what everyone was already calling the debate of the year. The battle lines were drawn, and the whole country was choosing sides. The America Debates studio in New York City had never seen so much excitement. Outside the building, crowds of people held signs supporting either Amanda Clark or Karoline Leavitt. News trucks lined the street. Reporters were interviewing people in the crowd, asking them who they thought would win the debate. Inside the studio, veteran host Greg Thompson was checking his notes one last time. He had been hosting debates for 20 years, but this one felt different. The whole country seemed to be watching. His producers told him they expected the biggest television audience of the year. Amanda arrived first, wearing a sharp black suit. She looked confident as she walked past the cameras. Her team of advisors followed her, whispering last-minute strategy in her ear. She had spent 3 days preparing for this moment, reading about famous debates and practicing her arguments. Remember, her publicist, Julie Roberts, told her, "Stay on the attack. Don't let her make this about emotions. Stick to facts and logic." Amanda nodded. She was ready for battle. Karoline arrived 30 minutes later. She wore a simple blue dress and carried only a small notebook. She had no team of advisors with her, just her press secretary colleague Beth Taylor, who would sit in the audience. "Are you nervous?" Beth asked as they walked toward the studio. Karoline smiled. "A little, but I prayed about this and I feel peaceful. Whatever happens tonight, I'm going to speak from my heart." The studio audience was split down the middle. Half the people were Amanda's fans who agreed with her views about religion. The other half were people of faith who supported Karoline. The tension in the room was thick. Greg Thompson sat between the two women at a curved desk. The bright lights made everything look dramatic. 3 cameras focused on them from different angles. "Good evening, America," Greg began. "Tonight we have Amanda Clark, host of Morning Perspectives, and Karoline Leavitt, White House press secretary. They're here to discuss faith, politics, and the role of religion in American life." He turned to Amanda first. "Amanda, you started this conversation with some very strong statements about faith. Do you want to explain your position?" Amanda leaned forward, ready to make her case. "Greg, thank you for having us. I think it's time someone told the truth about religion in America. We live in the 21st century, but we're still making decisions based on books written thousands of years ago by people who didn't understand science." She looked directly at Karoline. "We have real problems that need real solutions. Climate change, poverty, disease, war. These problems won't be solved by praying. They'll be solved by smart people using facts and science." Karoline waited patiently for her turn. When Greg nodded to her, she spoke calmly. "Amanda, I respect your right to have different beliefs than mine, but I think you're misunderstanding what faith means to most Americans. Faith doesn't mean we ignore science or facts. Many of the greatest scientists in history were people of faith." Amanda interrupted her. "Like who? Give me names." "Well," Karoline continued, not seeming bothered by the interruption, "Isaac Newton, who discovered the laws of gravity, was a devout Christian. So was Louis Pasteur, who developed vaccines that saved millions of lives. Gregor Mendel, who discovered how genetics work, was a monk." Amanda waved her hand dismissively. "Those are old examples. What about today?" "Today, some of our best doctors, teachers, and scientists are people of faith," Karoline replied. "They use their intelligence and their education to help others because their faith teaches them to love their neighbors." The audience was listening carefully. Some people nodded when Amanda spoke. Others nodded when Karoline spoke. Greg jumped in with another question. "Amanda, you specifically criticize politicians who talk about faith. What's wrong with leaders expressing their beliefs?" Amanda's voice got louder. "Greg, when politicians use religion, they're manipulating voters. They say, 'God told me to run for office,' or 'We need to pray about this decision.' It's a way to avoid taking responsibility for their choices." She pointed at Karoline. "This woman stands at the White House podium and talks about faith and values. But what does that actually mean? How does prayer help someone who can't afford their medicine?" Karoline took a deep breath. This was the moment she had been preparing for. "Amanda, you keep talking about prayer like it's the only thing people of faith do. But that's not true. Let me tell you what my faith has actually done." She looked into the main camera, speaking to millions of viewers at home. The church I grew up in runs a food bank that feeds 300 families every week. They have a medical clinic that gives free health care to people who can't afford it. They built a school in our neighborhood when the public school was falling down. Amanda tried to interrupt, but Karoline kept talking. My faith didn't make me sit around waiting for miracles. It taught me to work hard and help others. When I was 8 years old, my father left us. My mother worked 3 jobs, but we still struggled. The people at our church didn't just pray for us, they brought us groceries. They helped pay our electric bill. They gave my mother a better job. The studio was completely quiet. Even Amanda seemed surprised by the personal story. When I was in high school, Karoline continued, I wanted to give up. I thought college was impossible for someone like me. But my youth pastor, a man named Pastor Williams, tutored me for free every Tuesday night for 2 years. He helped me get scholarships. He drove me to college interviews. Her voice got stronger. My faith didn't make me weak, Amanda. It connected me to a community of people who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. It taught me that I have a responsibility to help others the way others helped me. Amanda finally found her voice. That's a nice story, Karoline, but you're talking about people helping people. You don't need God for that. You don't need religion to be a good person. You're right, Karoline said, surprising Amanda. You don't need religion to be good, but for millions of Americans, faith is what motivates them to be good. It's what gives them hope when times are hard. It's what reminds them that every person has value and dignity. Amanda leaned back in her chair. She hadn't expected Karoline to agree with her, even partially. But Amanda, Karoline continued, when you mock faith on national television, you're not just attacking an idea. You're attacking something that gives meaning and purpose to millions of people. You're telling a sick child's mother that she's stupid for praying. You're telling a man who lost his job that his hope is foolish. The camera caught Amanda's face changing. For just a moment, she looked uncertain. I'm not trying to hurt people, Amanda said, her voice quieter than before. I believe that, Karoline replied. But words have power, especially when millions of people are listening. We have a responsibility to use that power carefully. Greg Thompson looked at his watch. They were running out of time, but he could tell this conversation was far from over. The whole country was watching 2 very different women represent 2 very different ways of seeing the world. The debate wasn't just about religion anymore. It was about respect, understanding, and how Americans with different beliefs could live together in the same country. The morning after the debate, Amanda Clark woke up to a nightmare. Her phone had been buzzing all night with calls and messages. When she finally looked at the news, her heart sank. Every major newspaper had the same story on their front page. Leavitt wins debate, read the headline in the New York Times. Young press secretary shows Grace under fire, said the Washington Post. Even entertainment magazines were covering the story. Amanda's assistant Nicole called her at 7 in the morning. Amanda, you need to see the poll numbers, she said, her voice shaking. The overnight poll showed that 68% of viewers thought Karoline had won the debate. Only 22% said Amanda came out ahead. The comments online were even worse for Amanda. She looked mean and angry, one person wrote on social media. Karoline stayed calm and told her story with dignity. Amanda Clark owes an apology to every person of faith in America, wrote another. But the worst news was still coming. Tony Martinez, Amanda's producer, called an emergency meeting for that afternoon. When Amanda walked into the conference room at the television studio, she saw faces she had never seen before. Network executives who usually stayed in their offices were sitting around the table looking serious. Patricia Davis, the network president, didn't waste time with small talk. Amanda, we need to discuss the situation. Our phones haven't stopped ringing since the debate ended. People are talking about us, Amanda said, trying to sound positive. That's good for ratings, right? Patricia shook her head. Amanda, they're not just talking, they're angry. And more importantly, our advertisers are pulling out. She slid a paper across the table. 15 major companies have already canceled their commercials on your show. 3 more are threatening to cancel all their ads on our network if we don't do something. Amanda felt sick to her stomach. What kind of companies? Family restaurants, car companies, banks, insurance companies. Patricia read from her list. Companies that don't want to be associated with attacks on religion. Tony spoke up. Amanda, I warned you this could happen. You went too far. I was just expressing my opinion, Amanda said, but her voice was getting weaker. Patricia leaned forward. Amanda, you've been with us for 15 years. We value your contribution to this network. But we're losing millions of dollars. We have to think about our other shows and our other employees. What are you saying? Amanda asked, though she already knew the answer. We're putting your show on hiatus for 2 weeks while we figure out how to handle this situation. We need to let things cool down. Amanda's world was falling apart. Her show had been her life for 15 years. She had never imagined losing it. Meanwhile, in Washington, Karoline Leavitt was having the opposite experience. Her phone was also buzzing constantly, but with good news. Her approval ratings had jumped 20 points overnight. The president called to congratulate her on representing the administration so well. Republican leaders were praising her performance, and even some Democrats said they respected how she handled herself. Book publishers were calling her agent with offers. Universities wanted her to give speeches. Church groups across the country were inviting her to speak at their events. This could change your whole career, her friend Beth Taylor told her over lunch. You could run for office yourself someday. But Karoline felt uncomfortable with all the attention. Beth, I wasn't trying to destroy Amanda Clark. I was just trying to share what faith means to me. Well, you did both, Beth replied. The whole country saw the difference between her anger and your grace. Back in New York, Amanda's personal life was getting complicated too. Her boyfriend, Chris Taylor, had been quiet since the debate. When Amanda tried to talk to him about what happened, he seemed distant. Chris, what's wrong? She asked him over dinner. You've barely said a word to me in 2 days. Chris put down his fork and looked at her. Amanda, I've been thinking about what you said on television. About people who believe in God being weak and stupid. I wasn't talking about you, Amanda said quickly. But you were, Chris replied. My grandmother goes to church every Sunday. She's 90 years old and she volunteers at a homeless shelter twice a week. Are you saying she's weak? Amanda didn't know what to say. She had never thought about how her words affected the people close to her. My sister teaches Sunday school to kids whose parents can't afford babysitters, Chris continued. My best friend from college became a pastor and runs a program for drug addicts. These people aren't weak, Amanda. They're some of the strongest people I know. Amanda felt tears starting to form in her eyes. Chris, I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I was just trying to make a point about politicians. But you didn't just attack politicians, Chris said gently. You attacked everyone who believes differently than you do, including people who love you. That night, Amanda sat alone in her apartment, thinking about everything that had happened. She turned on the television and saw a news report about Karoline Leavitt visiting a children's hospital. The young press secretary was reading stories to sick kids and talking with their families. The reporter interviewed one of the mothers. Miss Leavitt didn't have to come here, the woman said. But she heard about our daughter's condition and wanted to meet her. She prayed with us and gave us hope. Amanda turned off the television. For the first time in years, she felt truly alone. The next morning brought more bad news. Amanda's agent, Steve Johnson, called with an update on her career prospects. Amanda, I've been making calls all week, he said. Nobody wants to hire you right now. The controversy is too big. Every network is afraid of the backlash. What about radio? Amanda asked. Or maybe online shows? I'm working on it, Steve said. But Amanda could tell he wasn't optimistic. The problem is that you're not just controversial anymore. You're toxic to advertisers. Companies don't want their products associated with attacking religion. Amanda's savings account would last her about 6 months if she was careful with money. After that, she would be in serious trouble. She started watching Karoline's press briefings every day, trying to understand what made the young woman so effective. Karoline always seemed prepared, but she also seemed genuine. She answered tough questions without getting angry or defensive. One afternoon, Amanda's doorbell rang. It was a delivery man with flowers and a card. Amanda thought they might be from a fan, but when she opened the card, she was shocked. "Dear Amanda," the card read, "I'm praying for you during this difficult time. I hope we can have a real conversation someday. Karoline Leavitt." Amanda stared at the card for a long time. After everything that had happened, after all the attacks and the public battle, Karoline was showing her kindness. For the first time since this whole situation started, Amanda began to wonder if she had been wrong about everything. 2 weeks later, Patricia Davis called Amanda with the final decision. "Amanda, we've decided not to bring your show back. We're canceling Morning Perspectives permanently." Amanda had expected this news, but it still felt like a punch in the stomach. 15 years of her life were over. "What about a different show?" Amanda asked desperately. "Maybe something less controversial?" "Amanda, I'm sorry," Patricia said. "Right now, we can't take the risk. Maybe in a year or two, when this dies down, we can talk again." Amanda hung up the phone and looked around her empty apartment. She had spent so many years focused on her career that she had forgotten to build a real life. Now she had neither. She picked up Karoline's card again and read it one more time. Maybe it was time to have that real conversation. 6 months had passed since Amanda Clark lost her television show. She spent most of her days in her New York apartment, watching other people's careers on television, while hers had completely disappeared. The money in her bank account was getting dangerously low, and no one would hire her for any television work. Amanda had applied for jobs at smaller networks, radio stations, and even local news channels. Every time the answer was the same. "We'll call you," they said, but they never. Her reputation was damaged beyond repair. Chris had moved out 3 months ago. He said he still cared about her, but he couldn't watch her destroy herself with anger and bitterness. Most of her friends had stopped calling. The entertainment industry was small, and people didn't want to be associated with someone who was considered toxic. On a cold Tuesday morning in January, Amanda was drinking coffee and reading job websites when her phone rang. She almost didn't answer because she didn't recognize the number. "Hello, Amanda. This is Helen Roberts from Political Weekly magazine." Amanda knew Helen's name. She was a respected journalist who had covered politics in Washington for 20 years. "I'm calling because I have an unusual request," Helen continued. "Karoline Leavitt asked me to reach out to you. She would like to meet with you privately, if you're interested." Amanda was quiet for a long moment. "Why would she want to meet with me?" "She didn't give me details," Helen said. "She just said she's been thinking about your situation and would like to have a conversation. No cameras, no reporters, just the two of you." Amanda's first instinct was to say no. The last thing she needed was more humiliation. But something about the offer intrigued her. After everything that had happened, why would Karoline want to talk to her? "Where would we meet?" Amanda asked. "There's a small cafe in Washington called Morning Glory. It's quiet and private. Karoline suggested this Friday at 2 o'clock if that works for you." Amanda looked around her empty apartment. She had nowhere else to be. "Tell her I'll be there," Amanda said. Friday afternoon, Amanda took the train to Washington. She hadn't been out of New York in months, and the change of scenery felt strange. She arrived at Morning Glory Cafe 15 minutes early and chose a table in the back corner where they wouldn't be noticed. Karoline arrived exactly on time, wearing jeans and a simple sweater. She looked younger and more relaxed than she did. On television, when she saw Amanda, she smiled and walked over. "Amanda, thank you for coming," Karoline said, sitting down across from her. "I know this must be awkward." Amanda studied Karoline's face, looking for signs of smugness or victory. But all she saw was genuine warmth. "I have to ask," Amanda said. "Why did you want to meet with me? You won. Your career is flying high and mine is over. Why aren't you just enjoying your success?" Karoline ordered coffee from the waitress before answering. "Amanda, I never wanted to destroy your career. I just wanted to share what faith means to me. When I heard about what happened to your show, I felt terrible." "You felt terrible?" Amanda laughed bitterly. You felt terrible that the person who attacked your beliefs lost everything? Yes, I did, Karoline said simply. My faith teaches me that every person has value, even people who disagree with me. Especially people who disagree with me. Amanda shook her head. I don't understand you. I called you naive. I mocked everything you believe in. I tried to embarrass you on national television, and you feel sorry for me? Karoline leaned forward. Amanda, I've been reading about your career. You've done some amazing journalism over the years. You've exposed corruption. You've helped people tell their stories. You've made a difference. One mistake shouldn't erase all of that. One mistake? Amanda said. Karoline, it wasn't a mistake. I meant every word I said. I really do think religion is... She paused, then looked down at her coffee cup. I thought religion was for weak people. What changed? Karoline asked gently. Amanda was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. You did, she said. Watching you these past 6 months, seeing how you handle pressure, how you treat people who attack you, I started thinking about the religious people in my own life. She looked up at Karoline. My grandmother was the kindest person I ever knew. She went to church every Sunday until the day she died. She volunteered at a soup kitchen and visited prisoners. I used to think she was just old-fashioned, but maybe she was actually stronger than I am. Karoline reached across the table and touched Amanda's hand. Tell me about her. She raised me after my parents died in a car accident, Amanda said, tears starting to form in her eyes. I was 8 years old and I was so angry. Angry at God, angry at the world, angry at everything, but she never got angry back. She just loved me. She sounds wonderful, Karoline said. She used to tell me that being angry at God was okay because it meant I still believed he was listening, Amanda continued. I never understood what she meant until now. They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, both women thinking about the conversation. Karoline, Amanda finally said, I owe you an apology, not just for attacking you personally, but for attacking something that clearly brings you strength and peace. I was wrong. I accept your apology, Karoline said immediately, but I want you to know that I never took it personally. I could see that you were in pain. Pain? Amanda asked. People who are truly at peace don't attack others so viciously, Karoline explained. I could tell that you were fighting something inside yourself, not just fighting me. Amanda wiped her eyes with a napkin. So what happens now? My career is over. I have no money, no job, no boyfriend. I've lost everything. Karoline smiled. Amanda, endings can also be beginnings. Maybe this is your chance to figure out who you really want to be. What do you mean? You're a talented communicator, Karoline said. You know how to tell stories that matter. Maybe instead of tearing people down, you could build them up. Maybe you could use your skills to help people understand each other instead of dividing them. Amanda thought about this idea. Like what? Start a blog about getting along with people you disagree with? Maybe, Karoline said. Or maybe a podcast where you have honest conversations with people from different backgrounds. You could show people that it's possible to disagree without being disagreeable. Would anyone listen to me after what happened? People love redemption stories, Karoline said. Americans believe in second chances. If you're honest about what you learned from this experience, I think people will give you another opportunity. Over the next hour, they talked about everything. Their childhoods, their careers, their hopes for the future. Amanda found herself laughing for the first time in months. You know what's funny? Amanda said as they prepared to leave. 6 months ago, I thought you were everything wrong with young people today. Now I think you might be everything right with them. Karoline hugged Amanda goodbye. Stay in touch, she said. I'd love to hear about whatever you decide to do next. 3 months later, Amanda launched a podcast called Second Chances. Her first episode was about her own story and what she had learned from her fall from grace. The second episode was an interview with Karoline about how young people could stay true to their values in a hostile world. The podcast grew slowly but steadily. Amanda interviewed people from all walks of life, asking them about their beliefs, their mistakes, and their hopes. She learned to listen more than she talked, and to ask questions instead of making accusations. A year later, Amanda got an email that made her cry. It was from a teenage girl who said the podcast had helped her forgive a friend who had hurt her. "You taught me that people can change," the girl wrote, "and that everyone deserves compassion." Amanda printed the email and put it on her refrigerator, right next to a photo of her grandmother. She still didn't share Karoline's faith, but she had learned to respect it. More importantly, she had learned that being right wasn't as important as being kind, and that real strength came from building bridges instead of burning them down.